Hello and welcome to today's lecture. I am Peter Benjamin Peter, a multiple award-winning writer, spoken word artist and Islam champion. I'll be lecturing you on Introduction to Poetry Slam. Poetry Slam is a competitive creative art event where poets perform before a live audience spoken word poetry, and they are judged and assessed by a panel of judges. Now, in some instances, these performances at the end of it are given prizes, and in some other instances there are no prizes for them. Now, for you to really understand what I mean, I'm going to pick out some key words from the definition so that we'll use to break down what I really meant. Now, these key words are 5, and let's look at them. It's a competition. Second, those who compete are poets. Third, what they do, what they compete, is spoken word poetry. Fourth, there is a panel of judges that assess what they do. And then finally, the 5th point, they perform before a live audience. Now, let me help you understand what these things are. Now, the competition part of it, you have to understand that spoken word slam or poetry slam is not like your normal poetry performance where you can go up on a stage and do your poem and then you just come down and that's it. Poetry slam is a competition. There's a prize at stake, and so everybody is jostling, is trying as much as they can to win that prize. Now we come to the second aspect of it, what they perform. Who are those that compete, of course, and those people are poets. Now, what do they perform? Spoken word poetry. Okay, now there's a panel of judges. That's the 4th keywords that we brought out from the definition. There's a panel of judges, and typically they are always 5. They could be lesser, and this panel of judges sometimes are picked from the audience, and some others are people that the organizers of the events may choose to pick to judge the event. They may be poets themselves, they may be people who are learned in literature, but their duty there is to listen to every performance, give scores to them, and at the end of the day, they are the ones that will declare the winner. Now, the 5th point that we spoke about is that they perform before a live audience. Now, in some instances, and with the evolution of technology, poetry slam has changed in the way it is organized. In many instances these days, there is no need for a live audience for a poetry slam. There are slams that are done virtually, especially most times international slams, that poets from many countries of the world can slam from their homes, and they are connected through a virtual event. And so in that instance, you also have to understand that that is different from the normal poetry slam, because in the normal poetry slam, of course, we have the audience, and there are so many things that the audience do to a slam. Of course, you know, the clapping, the finger snapping, and even the boos that come out of them, of course. So those things may not come during the virtual slam, but you have to understand that yes, these virtual slams, sometimes there may be audience who will be watching you from their homes, and of course there is also a panel of judges that will look into what you've done. Now, historically, poetry slam began in 1984, and it was organized by Mark Smith, an American poet in Chicago. And the idea behind organizing a poetry slam for him was to try to take poetry away from the academia to an audience. So he was trying to make poetry more interesting. He was trying to expose poetry to so many persons. He was trying to lift the ban or the restriction of poetry that was restricted to the academia and make it open where everybody could enjoy poetry. And that was how he came out with the idea of this competition we now call Poetry Slam. Now, beyond the competition, of course, we know that the slam is a competition where you go to win probably a prize or so. Beyond the competition, poetry slam does a lot of things to poetry and of course to the poets. And I will mention two. First of all, I'll talk about the entertainment part of poetry slam. Now, I refer to poetry slam myself personally as entertainment poetry, and that's because it makes poetry different from the rigid kind of nature that we came to meet it. And so you can delve into so many things, you can bring in so many concepts, you can bring in music, some people even fuse it as rap, but at the end of the day, we all build it around the culture of poetry. So the entertainment part and the audience, the visibility it gives to poetry, it gives poetry a larger audience, it gives us more acceptability. And so there are so many other people that will come to appreciate poetry simply by watching a poetry slam event. Now, the second thing that spoken word poetry does to poetry, of course, this one is for the poets, is what I would love to refer to the definition of poetry by my friend Alejandro Jimenez of Mexico, where he referred to poetry slam as a game. And in this game, he said that this game, everybody who competes in it has different intentions. He said some compete to win, some others compete to get better, and some others just want to have the experience of it. So for those who compete to win, of course there's a prize money attached to it, and the way they compete is different from those who just compete to have the experience. And for those who compete to get better, of course theirs is also a good prize because they are going to improve their art. Now this is what I mean. I've once competed in a slam, and that was the Association of Nigerian Authors Slam, because I wanted to get better at the art. I knew that the organizers of that competition, Association of Nigerian Authors, are mostly people who are professionals in literature. They are lecturers, they are authors, they are people who have gone far in the art of poetry and writing. And what I wanted to do was, I wanted to perform poetry before this kind of audience. I wanted to hear their evaluation of my poetry. I wanted to hear them judge my poetry so that I understand, okay, how far have I gone? I wanted a different kind of audience to listen to my poetry, and so I entered for that poetry slam that was organized by that association because I knew the kind of judges that were going to come, I knew the kind of audience that were going to come, and interestingly, I won that slam. And so I could tell myself, yes, I'm better at what I'm doing, and I got the experience, I got the exposure, and of course I also got the money at the end of the day. So entering into a poetry slam is for different reasons, like Alejandro Jimenez has said. Some to win the money, some to gain the experience, and some others to be better at their art. Now that we've been able to understand what poetry slam is, let's see examples of notable poetry slams in the world and people who have won them in the past.